Today I wanted to talk about a subject that is a little bit difficult to discuss, but I think it has to be spoken out, and people are increasingly finding it more difficult to trust leaders within ISKCON or within other religious groups in general. And this problem I want to discuss is what happens when a spiritual leader falls down. Falls down means that when he preaches a certain standard of purity, spiritual qualities, and he's not able to live it up himself. For example, preaching about having no illicit sex, but then the society finds out actually that person had sex with other men's wives or even children, and that is very sinful. So people lose their faith immediately in such leaders, like they are called hypocrites. It's a very difficult subject, and I would like to get into it with you, going through different parts of the scripture that deals with these issues. We have to understand that specifically sannyas, the ashram sannyas in Vedic culture, is the ashram that is supposed to be the most respected, elevated position. So literally everyone is bowing down to them. That is actually the amount of respect we should bring a proper sannyasi. Now the problem is not everyone is qualified to take that position, and specifically 5 types of activities, of things are forbidden in this age, and one of them is to accept sannyas. And the reason for that is because in this age there are no qualified individuals in general that are capable to take up this responsibility. This is why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he appeared, he accepted sannyas, even though he didn't have to. That's also very important. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas solely for the reason that he can preach. Sannyas is not an ashram that I accept to become perfect. It is an ashram that is accepted after one has attained perfection. That is the actual position of sannyas. So specifically in ISKCON, why do we have sannyas? It's actually forbidden. It is a shastric injunction. Sannyas should not be taken in this age. And Srila Prabhupada, he actually accepted Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's example of initiating sannyas disciples knowingly they are not qualified to take it. So we can see that what happens if an unqualified person accepts sannyas, there's of course the danger that he will fall down. That's even the sex drive, for example, is so strong. Even Lord Brahma once fell down desiring sexual union with his own daughter, and there were also sages who criticized him for that. And it was indeed a very sinful desire Lord Brahma had. It was so sinful he had to give up his body. He couldn't stop. Like this desire that overcame him, he could not just renounce. He had to destroy the body that developed the desire and accept a new body. It's a very interesting pastime actually. And so even the sages who were Lord Brahma's sons, they criticized him, like how can Lord Brahma, who is the leader of the universe, fall down and desire sex with his own daughter, and even engage in, or chasing after her, basically trying to engage in that. So and they got cursed because they dared to criticize Lord Brahma, who is their superior. So criticizing sannyas is very dangerous. However, I feel obliged to remind the people who are actually losing their faith in institutions like ISKCON, and this happened also to the Catholic Church, that priests, they just, can't help themselves and grab children and have sex with them. It is very serious issue, and the problem is people losing their faith in Catholic Church because the Church themselves covers up the criminals. And I see the same tendencies happening in ISKCON, that the responsible organization, the GBC, is not taking the responsibility of removing these people who fell down from their position, because that is when a sannyas falls down, there are only two options for him. Either he commits suicide, or he is abandoned by society, and which is a spiritual suicide, because he has to lose his respectable position, and he can then get purified by renouncing the position of worship, and commit himself to his bhajan, worshipping the Supreme Lord, praying for forgiveness, repenting for his crimes. That is required for him to get purified. So if the organization which is responsible with this task, because this is why Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wanted to have a GBC to monitor it. Are these individuals actually following their dharma? Or if they fall down, to punish them. Actually, a sannyas who falls down, to become purified from this, he has to give up his body. Like Lord Brahma did. Lord Brahma gave up his body to become free from that sin. And I guess we don't expect this nowadays as a standard, because sannyas dharma is very, very serious. It's very serious. And if he falls down from his path, he drags many with him. And this is the danger. This is why if the leadership falls down, the followers always follow in their footsteps. So people give the wrong example. People get the wrong impression. These guys, from ISKCON, they're just like the church. They are actually, just covering up people, having sex with kids that are under their protection, boys, girls, no discrimination. And that's very serious. And people lose their faith in Prabhupada, in ISKCON, because the GBC does not their duty of actually removing them from their position, because they can't cover up for their mistakes. A sannyas has to be transparent. There can be no privacy. There can be no protection from criticism. A sannyas has to accept criticism, and if the criticism is justified, then the person who criticizes still, even Lord Krishna, he does not like to correct sannyasi. But if they are actually fallen, so if they are not proper sannyasis, then they have to accept the reactions for their activities, like everyone. There's no divine protection for committing crimes. Even devotees, they have to face the consequences of their misbehavior. So, now, if we are aware of this subject, now I would like to go a bit more internal, how do we deal with this if we find ourselves part of a religious group where the leaders are actually, some of them, not all of them, are hypocrites or not self-realized, because a sannyas should be self-realized to begin with, right? Just for a quick overview, Varnashram Dharma means I go through a stage of brahmachari, then I usually accept grihastha ashram where I can marry, have kids, have wife, have children, right? Then there is vanaprastha ashram, and the vanaprastha ashram, that is actually the ashram in which we should become perfect. So that's the vanashram system. And then sannyas is accepted after I have achieved this perfection, to preach, to give it to others. That is the sannyas dharma. So first of all, the brahmachari ashram teaches us what is celibacy, because celibacy is very important for self-realization, to attain God. We cannot just have sex whenever we like with whomever we like. It's just a fact. This also is preached in other religions, that you have to discriminate. You cannot just have sex with anyone. Have sex with your wife, get married, and then if you are forcing young people who did not go through this training to accept sannyas, it's sort of expected they will fall down. If they don't fall down, they're actually great souls, very, very pure souls. But most sannyasis, they were just very enthusiastic when they got initiated by Prabhupada. They really wanted to do it, they wanted to be sincere, and then somehow Maya found a way to make them fall, and they were not themselves overcome by lust. It can happen to any one of us, we have to be clear. It's a difference to fall down when you are just starved out of sex and you just desire to have sex with anyone. It's a difference when suddenly there's a beautiful woman coming and showing you privately her naked beauty. this is so serious, even Lord Shiva, he actually fall down, even though his wife was directly next to him when Mohini Murti, the incarnation of the Supreme Lord, which took the form of the most beautiful woman, was attracting him. Basically, Lord Shiva challenged Vishnu that I want to see this form which you use to bewilder the demons. And Vishnu replied, are you really sure that you want to do that? Because, yeah, of course, Lord Shiva challenged, like, will you be able to attract me? Will you be able to make me fall down? And so, actually, first Vishnu warned him, and then Lord Shiva was persisting. So, Vishnu transformed into this form of Mohini Murti, and she attracted Lord Shiva so much that Shiva, he forgot himself. He just chased after her, and on the way he lost semen. And interestingly, after that happened, of course, he became sort of sober. He realized, oh, what just happened? I just became so overcome by lust, seeing the beauty of Mohini Murti. He completely lost himself. So, in this sense, that it is not appropriate to criticize a living being for falling down to the desire for sex. But if a sannyasa falls down, it's a serious problem. And there are certain measurements to be taken, otherwise the people will lose their faith. And this is what happens. You know, people, devotees, they just lose their faith in Krishna, in Guru, in Shastra, because they think, oh, I need this leader, I need this qualified person to guide me. Then he falls down. That's it. My faith is lost. That's why it's so important to Krishna sends us devotees that give us an example. You know, but the examples are there. I don't need to give up my faith just because someone, you know, fell down. It's not. There are plenty of proper examples, even within ISKCON, of gurus who are qualified that we can follow. So we do not need to abandon the society. We just need to rectify the mistakes, and this is a serious thing that must happen. The GBC has the responsibility to observe sannyas, to make sure there's no corruption within that ashram, that they do their duty. So Srila Prabhupada, under the instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he wanted the GBC to be a governing body commission. So they are supposed to take care guiding the society, and if they cover up the sins of the leaders, they're actually doing a great disservice to Srila Prabhupada. So I realized that by making this video, I maybe offend some people by speaking the truth. The truth is not always pleasing, but it has to be spoken. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave such an example of sannyas to make sure people cannot find an excuse to fall down. If I am posing myself as a sannyas, and I don't do the duties of a sannyas, it's a very serious thing. And if we do the same mistake as the Catholic Church and just cover up their mistakes, pretend they exist, or then, you know, putting them down as if there's no harm, you know, it's the fault of the victim, right? The victim attracted the sannyas to fall down, which is seriously offensive. ISKCON is splitting apart. We are losing it. We are losing the grip that instead. Prabhupada never said abandon the society. You know, he said never leave ISKCON. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't. We should just stand there and let the society become destroyed, because it comes out. The truth reveals itself that they were unqualified leaders, and Prabhupada took that risk. He accepted unqualified people, gave them sannyas. You know, he takes the responsibility. He's the guru of them. So if a sannyas falls down, the spiritual master, he gave him that initiation, so he accepts the reaction. So of course Srila Prabhupada takes care of his disciples, right? But not in a way that, you know, a guru does not cover up the sinful activities of his disciple. He just gives him a chance to go back to Godhead, that, you know, they may not have to endure suffering that will keep them in the material world. But you cannot expect that even the sannyasis, I mean, they're very individual cases. I'm not going to show them. I'm not going to blame any individuals here. This is purely this is purely for our knowledge, that we begin to realize that yes, they have to, there were bad examples who fell down, unfortunately, but there are many good examples that show us the way. So we cannot really blame the individuals that they are the reason why I lose my faith. We should ourselves have the responsibility to elevate ourselves, that we also get to a spiritual platform. However, I'm simply concerned that if we keep doing like this, and with me I mean the society, the ISKCON society, then people will just lose their faith, they go away. And if this is what we want, then we could just continue the same way we do now. But if we don't change, then that means people will lose their faith in Prabhupada, in Krishna, in ISKCON. It's just another religious sect. And that would be very, very serious bad name. So that's another problem. If a sannyas makes a mistake, it gives Krishna a bad name, because they're supposed to be representatives of God. They have this responsibility. So yes, I'm making this video, and this will not be the only one, because if we are talking about what a sannyas shouldn't do, we definitely should find shelter in the correct example. And the correct example is for sure Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he accepted sannyas entirely to preach. That was the only reason he accepted sannyas. Otherwise, there was no reason for him to accept sannyas. A young person whose senses are strong, for him to renounce sex desire is a great austerity. And if you're not spiritually advanced, these desires, they will catch up to you. They will come out in unwanted ways, perverted ways. So yeah, very, very serious issue. And I hope that I could explain myself a little bit with these examples I gave from Shastra. We shouldn't be afraid to speak about these subjects. Actually, not speaking about them is the reason people leave. They feel like they cannot speak out. They cannot voice their concerns. They feel they are not being heard. I feel like that. That's why I'm having a channel, and I can speak without having to worry that I will be removed from my position, because now I'm independent from ISKCON, but I still feel like a part of this society. I want the society to grow, and I want to make ISKCON the movement it's supposed to be, but that will not happen if we are unclear about what actually is the history of ISKCON and how do we solve it. Pushing away problems will never help us improve. We have to be transparent via medias. So if I commit any offense with this video, even though I really hope I shouldn't, because I didn't name any individual, this information is plainly available in the internet, World Wide Web, and I find it very degraded, because usually you find these type of informations only on channels that are explicitly dedicated to give sannyas a bad name, to give individual leaders of ISKCON a bad name, even though there are many qualified people, even though there are many sannyas who were keeping up their religious principles for their whole life, and people just focus on the bad example. If we cannot voice our concerns and discuss them like civilized people, there's no chance this will not come out in a bad way. So yeah, I hope this video contributes that we actually become aware of the issue and not lose our faith in the scriptures or in Krishna or in Srila Prabhupada, but be aware that Maya is very strong and she can overcome us. So lust is the issue, and it's a problem that you have in all ashrams, but if sannyas falls down to it, it has serious consequences for the society. And this is what I want to point out. So yeah, please accept my humble obeisances, and I hope I see you next time.